1,000. Your phone would be completely unusable with that many messages constantly coming in. Anyway, about a month after her arrest, Jackie is back at it. She's looking for Isaac again. And so she goes up to his business. I guess he owns a store that sells skincare products. And she walks into the store and she starts talking to the staff like, yeah, I'm Isaac's wife. I need to see him. Where is he? And the employees are like, Isaac doesn't have a wife. But she demands to see him and she starts causing a scene. While the customers in the store, they're all watching this like, what the fuck is going on? I'm just trying to buy some moisturizer. And so they call the police. And police come and they remove Jackie and bam, she's arrested again. Here's her mugshot. But here's the thing about all this though, and this is actually pretty sad. Jackie is very clearly mentally unwell, like severely so. Like she legitimately believes all this stuff with police and the courts and the jail time she's facing right now is some kind of test that Isaac is putting her through to test her loyalty and her love for him. After all this, she still believes that they are going to end up together. So then Jackie does something wild. While she's in jail, she calls for a press conference with the media outlets. And when the media hears that some woman sent this guy 65,000 text messages, they can't wait to talk to her. So major news outlets show up to her press conference, and she really seems to like all this attention. Am I being Fox News? And so the reporters start hitting her up with questions.
65,000 text messages. That's
it?
whole stuff.
It's amazing, but
Isn't that kind of excessive?
love isn't excessive.
Jackie, some of those messages don't sound like love, they sound like threat.
Yeah. Finding love, not everything is perfect.
Are you a crazy person?
I'm the person that discovered love. The equation to light. Einstein discovered the equation to light is E equals mc squared.
So you're not angry with him?
No. Oh my God, I love him so much. And prosecutors end up offering Jackie a plea deal where she can get out of jail immediately, but she refuses their plea deal because the deal states that she would no longer be allowed to contact Isaac. Instead, she says, no, I want to go to trial because a jury will find me innocent, and on top of that, they'll demand that Isaac and I get married. As if a jury is going to demand that they get married. However, she never actually goes to trial because when she's ultimately evaluated, she's found to be mentally incompetent. And so all the charges against her are dropped and she's transferred to a mental health facility. And honestly, that actually sounds like a good outcome for her.
I've been needing more art in my bedroom and recently painted this canvas. However, I wasn't quite sure the best way to hang it, so I turned to ChatGPT. It gave me a list of all the materials I needed and an easy step-by-step.
So this guy is about to do something so evil that his own kid is going to get him put in prison for it. So the kid, his name is Ronnie. Ronnie is 8, and he's living in Florida with his mom and his special needs sister. And Ronnie, he wants what all 8-year-olds want. A stable home life with a good family. And his mom tries really hard to give that to him and his sister. However, there's a problem. His dad. Now, his dad is this guy, O'Neill. O'Neill, he's just not a good dude. Like, he's been locked up quite a few times for various offenses. Plus, he's kind of crazy. Like, he's always flipping out and yelling, and he eventually just leaves them and refuses to pay child support. But honestly, things are better for Ronnie and his sister when Dad isn't around. But one day in 2017, something crazy happens. O'Neill, he's just standing there on the street, I guess, and someone nearby pulls a random drive-by shooting, and suddenly, bam, he gets hit by a stray bullet, and he's seriously wounded, so he's rushed to the hospital. Later, when he gets out of the hospital, no one offers to help take care of him. Not his parents, not his new girlfriend, literally no one wants to help him. I guess because he's just such a jerk. So O'Neill calls up Ronnie's mom, like, please, can you help me out? I have nowhere else to go. And even though they broke up, she feels bad for him. She's like, fine, you can stay with us and I'll help you recover. So O'Neill moves in with the three of them, and Ronnie's mom starts taking care of him. But unfortunately, O'Neill, he's just not a good guy, and he's crazy. So they fight a lot. And one day in 2018, things get really bad. because they get into an argument over who even knows what, and O'Neill flips out and he goes into a rage. And suddenly he just snaps and he grabs a shotgun and he starts running around the house chasing Ronnie's mom. And from here, things get really dark really fast because O'Neill, unfortunately, murders Ronnie's mom and then he murders his own daughter, Ronnie's sister, and he does all this right in front of Ronnie. Then he decides to go after Ronnie himself. Like suddenly he grabs a knife and boom, he stabs him, and then he stabs him again and again and again. Then he gets a gasoline can and he pours gas everywhere in the house, including on Ronnie. Then he lights a match and he sets the whole place on fire, and the whole house just goes up in flames. And pretty quickly, police arrive and they surround the place and they see the fire inside the house. Right then, the garage door opens and O'Neill just casually walks outside toward the police. And the police are like, "Get on the ground!" But O'Neill doesn't listen. So they tase his ass and that makes him listen. And bam, police arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And so police throw him in the squad car. But then they see a silhouette stumbling out of the house. And it's Ronnie. And he's injured, but he's alive. So they rush him to the hospital. And he's in critical condition, and he's not expected to survive. But eventually, he does start to get better to the point where he can, have visitors and stuff. Now, while he's in the hospital, he gets visited by one of the detectives working on the scene. This guy, Detective Mike. And one day, while Detective Mike is visiting, as he's leaving, Ronnie grabs his hand and he asks him to stay and watch a movie with him. And Detective Mike does. And so it's really nice that Ronnie, he's found someone to spend a little time with him. Not only that, Detective Mike later keeps returning to visit Ronnie in the hospital. Sometimes he'll bring his whole family to spend time with him there. So that's good. Now, after a bunch of surgeries, Ronnie ends up making a full recovery. So good for him. However, now he has a new problem. His dad, O'Neill, has to go to trial over all this. And Ronnie is the only survivor, so he's the only witness, which means he'll be expected to talk about the murders that happened that day and testify against his own dad. So a few years pass, and it's now 2021, and Ronnie is 11 now. And O'Neill's murder trial finally begins. And because he's clearly out of his mind, O'Neill actually waives his right to a lawyer and instead chooses to represent himself in court. So he's his own lawyer. And in court, he argues that the police are all against him and that they fabricated evidence against him.
When your severe asthma says you can't, Tespire says you can. Tespire is an animal treatment for me.
And that they
What? What?
his son Ronnie to lie in court. He claims that he did kill his girlfriend that day, but it was all in self-defense. And all this goes about as bad as you can imagine.
Alright, Mr. O'Neill, please stop using swearing language. It's not appropriate in a closing argument.
And so O'Neill pleads not guilty and claims self-defense, and he argues that police tampered with evidence. So then, poor little Ronnie has to do one of the bravest things I've ever seen a kid do. He has to testify against his own dad. And because O'Neill is acting as his own attorney, he's the one who gets to cross-examine Ronnie. So he's the one asking him questions, and this is the first time they've spoken since he attacked him.
Did I hurt you that night for this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
So Ronnie does the right thing and the scary thing, and he tells the court all about what happened that day. And of course, his testimony is enough to put O'Neill in prison for life. I mean, it's double murder, attempted murder, arson, all kinds of stuff. So now that Ronnie has said the words that could get O'Neill locked up for life, does O'Neill finally take accountability, show remorse, maybe apologize for his crimes? No, of course he doesn't. In fact, at the end of the trial, he very directly says that he's not sorry.
I am not sorry for something I did do, and I am not sorry for the things I did do. Alright. I'm not.
And so anyway, ultimately, the jury believes Ronnie, and with the help of his testimony, O'Neill gets convicted. So Ronnie's bravery gave his mother and sister the justice that they deserved. But now the question is, what's going to happen to little Ronnie? Remember, all he wanted was what all kids want, like a stable home life with a good family. But all in the same day, he lost his mom, his sister, and his place to live. And since then, back in 2018, he was taken into state custody, and from there, he bounced around from place to place, living in foster care. But it's about a year later that something pretty incredible happens. Remember Detective Mike, the cop who worked on Ronnie's case and visited him in the hospital? Well, one day, Detective Mike gets a call from a social worker, one who had been working on Ronnie's case. And the social worker's like, "We can't find a home for Ronnie. Do you possibly know anyone who can take him?" And Detective Mike's like, "I do. Bring him here. We want to adopt him." So Detective Mike officially adopts Ronnie and welcomes him into the family. And now Ronnie has a dad and a mom and brothers and sisters. And here is a picture of them. Here is another picture of them at a baseball game. And so finally, Ronnie gets a home and a stable family life that he has always wanted. I'm not crying, you are. While his dad O'Neill gets sentenced to 3 life sentences plus 90 years in prison.
Whoppers never tasted better. Thanks. Because there's a new thing. It's you. New label. With Braun, you can still look.
So this guy, he's about to become a multi-millionaire. And he's gonna screw it all up. So his name is Sharon. And Sean is 16, living in Philadelphia, and his whole life is about to change. Because one morning in 1990, a local businessman is leaving a bank, and he had just withdrew $25,000 in cash. And so he gets in his car and he starts to leave, and suddenly comes crashes into him. And one of the dudes gets out and points a pew right at him, and blam, he shoots him in the chest. And then they grab all his money and they speed away. Meanwhile, Sean is apparently at this youth center on the other side of town. And he's there, he's filling out his paperwork. Now, for some reason that we still don't understand, someone tells the police that it was Sean who did this robbery outside the bank, even though he was supposedly at the youth center the whole time. And so, bam, police go and they arrest him. Here's his mugshot. And suddenly, poor 16-year-old Sean is looking at life in prison. And he's terrified. I mean, because who wouldn't be? And so his lawyer starts looking for some evidence that helps prove his innocence. And he comes across a form from the youth center that Sean signed the morning of the murder. I guess he had to sign some forms while he was there, and the forms were time-stamped. Not only that, but Sean has witnesses. His mother and sister were at the youth center that day, and they saw him sign those papers. So anyway, several years go by, and it's now 1994. And Sean is 20 at this point, and he goes to trial. And this trial doesn't go well for him. For some reason, his mother and sister are never called to testify. And so, boom, he's sentenced to life in prison at only 20 years old. And so Sean is devastated. I mean, what's he gonna do now? His entire life is over. He can't spend the rest of his days locked up in a cell, and he'll do whatever it takes to get his life back. And so what's he gonna do now? Well, he starts writing letters to anyone who would listen to him, anyone who could possibly help him. And he keeps writing letter after letter after letter. And 17 years go by. And it's now 2011. And at some point, he writes a letter to the Pennsylvania Innocence Project, which is like an advocacy group that helps people out who have been wrongly convicted. And so they start looking into his case, and they see things like the time-stamped